Over 60? Discover the 4 shocking carbs you must avoid and 4 hidden gems to transform your health. Evelyn sat at her kitchen table, the smell of lasagna wafting through the air, a comfort she had known all her life. Family photos surrounded her, stories frozen in time, each snapshot a reminder of love and loyalty. Yet, the echo of her doctor's warning loomed ominously in her mind. Your health needs attention, Evelyn. You can't keep putting everyone else first. A harsh truth that sliced through her heart. The lasagna, her legacy, soon felt more like a weight dragging her down than a labor of love. She could hear the laughter of her children, the delighted yum at their favorite dish, but the fear surged with each bite they savored. How could her beloved comfort foods become a threat to her well-being? Feeling overwhelmed, Evelyn found herself lost in a swirl of conflicting dietary advice from the internet, friends, and family. Each suggestion piled on the pressure, casting shadows over her spirit. She hesitated. What was she supposed to change? Between fighting off those haunted thoughts, she noticed a handwritten flyer on the community center bulletin board. A local fitness group, led by a rugged former athlete named Jack, promised not just exercise, but laughter in the process. It seemed like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. With trepidation, she took the plunge, stepping into that first class. The auditorium was alive with chatter, filled with people like her looking to reclaim their health. Jack's spirited energy was contagious, coaxing laughter out of even the most reticent. Yet behind her smiles, Evelyn felt an internal storm brewing. As she followed along, each rep transformed into a reminder of the fried chicken and buttery biscuits of family gatherings she would need to reconsider. Why should my family suffer from my changes? She questioned, grappling with an inner turmoil that wouldn't let go. She adored the recipes that had been passed down through generations, but recognizing the hidden carbs felt like treachery against the very tradition she had nurtured. Day by day, she stumbled through a maze of conflicting emotions. The love for her family's taste and her desire for a healthier life were in a fierce tug-of-war. Before the annual family reunion loomed ahead, Evelyn wrestled with an impossible dilemma. The prospect of serving her family a stunningly different menu filled her with dread. Could she balance the pride she felt in her heritage with the urgent need to take charge of her health? As she fidgeted with recipe cards, familiar scents danced through the air. Chocolate cake, her granddaughter's favorite, whispered promises of joy and comfort, but it also intensified her fear. Deep down, she realized this was about more than food. It was a relenting push against the deep-seated definition of love she clung to. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Evelyn was spiraling, caught between the fear of disappointing her family and the ache of ignoring her health. What if they misunderstand? What if they ridicule my choices? The faces of her loved ones flashed through her mind, the anticipation of their joy while feasting on her old recipes, now clouded by anxiety. As she battled with these overwhelming thoughts, the clock ticked down to the reunion, and with it came a heavy weight of uncertainty and fear. Would she emerge from the kitchen not only a caretaker, but someone who dared to change? Could she redefine love not by the food she served, but by prioritizing her health and setting an example? The fear consumed her, leaving her standing at the precipice of tradition and transformation. The answer remained painfully elusive, and the path ahead felt more treacherous than ever. Evelyn's thoughts raced as the day of the family reunion drew closer. She caught herself imagining how the celebration would unfold, smiling faces around the table, hands reaching for her signature dishes, laughter echoing against familiar walls. Yet each vivid image sent a jolt of panic through her. What if she served something different? Would they truly understand the change that was necessary, or would they see only abandonment of family tradition? After many sleepless nights, she sat down with a notepad, the familiar dance of culinary creativity flowing through her. In the quiet of the early morning, she began her list, attempting to formulate a plan. On one side were the favored recipes, names dancing in her mind. buttery mashed potatoes, sweet cornbread, and rich chocolate cake. On the opposite side, she attempted to note healthier compromises, substitutes that would honor both her health and her family's legacy. Zucchini noodles, whole grain flour, almond milk. The words felt foreign and thin in comparison to the luscious dishes lovingly crafted over the years. As she scribbled ideas, confidence flickered momentarily before a wave of doubt crashed down on her. What if they scoff at these new choices? She whispered to herself, casting a fleeting glance at the family photo hanging on the wall. The faces smiling back were draped in nostalgia. In that silence, a deep-seated question arose. Is love defined only through food? Suddenly, she was engulfed by memories of past reunions, each one a tapestry woven together with laughter, mishaps, and warmth. Her mind wandered to the conversations at these gatherings, the advice and opinions that flowed freely, often alongside steaming plates of comfort food. Could she spark a revolution, not just in her cooking, but within the hearts of those she loved? Perhaps proposing healthier yet still enjoyable alternatives could become a new tradition in itself. Fueled by newfound resolve, she approached her kitchen more frequently, experimenting, testing one recipe after another. Her visit to Jack's fitness class had ignited an ember of creativity that transcended the confines of exercise. She now found herself enjoying the process of tweaking long-loved recipes to fit her evolving lifestyle. She learned to embrace quinoa salads and roasted vegetables, their flavors vibrant and colorful, tempting in completely new ways. Each trial was met with a mix of success and secrets. Her family remained oblivious to her revolution, sharing meals where common conversations intertwined with the delicious smells emanating from her kitchen. But a soft barrier began to form between her and the recipes she had long cherished. Could she truly reshape their dining experience and turn her culinary history into something lighter, yet equally heartfelt? By the time the sun rose to mark the day of the reunion, Evelyn's mind raced between the excitement of transformation and the dread of backlash. As she arranged her makeshift buffet, a spread rich in colors and flavors, yet lacking traditional heaviness, she felt her heartbeat amplifying. Would they notice the absence of their beloved staples? Would they offer her the support she desperately craved? Or would this courage bring forth a wave of judgment? That moment of truth reached an intense crescendo as her family members began to trickle through the door, bearing arms full of their own dish contributions. In seeing their enthusiasm, a flicker of expectation sparked within her. Perhaps, just perhaps, this could be a moment of connection rather than disconnection. As the first questioning glances fell upon her new creations, Evelyn inhaled deeply. The time had come to reveal not just a meal, but a message, one that could redefine her understanding of love in the most transformative way possible. Would they embrace her choices, choosing to celebrate love through more than just food? As tension electrified the air around her, she stood ready for the potential moments that lay ahead, embracing the good, the bad, and everything in between. And in that charged moment, she realized this reunion had the potential to become a much more significant reflection of who she was truly becoming, not just as a chef, but as a woman ready to forge her own path, one courageous step at a time. What would she choose if fear vanished into the background, if the possibilities of her new journey filled the room instead? The atmosphere in the room shifted as Evelyn's family began to settle in, filling the edges of the bustling kitchen with familiarity. She felt their energy, a chaotic mix of excitement, curiosity, and just a hint of skepticism as they exchanged knowing glances and murmured greetings. It sent a ripple of anxiety down her spine, yet she clung to a fragile thread of hope. This was more than just a meal. It was her lifeline to who she wanted to be. She watched as each dish was placed on the table, heavy with tradition, a visual feast of nostalgia. The cornbread glistened, golden and sweet, mashed potatoes piled high, smothered in gravy, and the chocolate cake, always a crowd favorite. But her offerings, in contrast, sat quietly, colorful and inviting, their presence muted yet vibrant. She fought the urge to recoil, to withdraw from her choices as her family scrutinized her creations. "Evelyn, is that zucchini I see?" Aunt Lydia's voice carried a mix of curiosity and incredulousness. Evelyn felt her stomach twist. It was the moment of unveiling, a reckoning ahead. What happened to the pasta? Swallowing hard, Evelyn steadied herself. I wanted to try something different this year. Something healthier, but still delicious. The words tumbled out, earnest and full of conviction, yet echoing with uncertainty. She searched the room for supportive expressions, hoping to quell the undercurrent of doubt she felt. Healthier, huh? What is really in those things? Uncle Tom's skepticism was palpable, his brow furrowed as he hovered over the quinoa salad with thinly veiled derision. His voice challenged her, sparking an internal fury. Did he possess the knowledge to judge her efforts? Or was he simply a conduit for the family's collective doubt? Evelyn struggled with the burgeoning confrontation within her. Each question pierced the air. Did she have the right to change what had brought her family together? Perhaps, in their eyes, her resolution was an affront to everything they had celebrated. But she remained anchored, recognizing that this wasn't merely about food. It was her declaration for personal growth, an act of rebellion powered by courage. Can you just try it? A plea slipped out, surprising even herself. The room quieted, eyes rolled, hesitant laughter filled the space. Yet beneath it all, she sensed a shift, a small opening of awareness. They could easily dismiss her dishes, poking fun and retreating to comfort through familiar bites. But they could also choose to explore, to grow alongside her. As hands hesitated above the buffet, Evelyn took it upon herself. She grabbed a stack of plates and began filling them with her creations, each spoonful an invitation rather than an argument. You might find you like it, she urged, her voice steadying. Give it a chance. Slowly, lips began to part in curiosity, tentatively, as they took their first bites. She observed each face, watching for signs of struggle or acceptance, her heart beating louder than the laughter that surrounded her. Would the flavors reach them deep enough to overshadow their traditions? Would they savor the culinary essence of her journey? And in that moment of vulnerability, she faced her own reflection not merely as the chef of a meal, but as the architect of her life choices. She held the tickets of courage, a blend of heritage and innovation, mapping her identity anew. The resolution became crystalline. She could be more than just a source of nourishment, but also an agent of change. After the last slices of cake disappeared, the table buzzed with animated conversations. Evelyn caught snippets. Brief debates sprung up around nutrition versus tradition, laughter layered with unfamiliar compliments directed at her dishes. She felt a flicker of empowerment as the room came alive with dialogue and debate, the intertwining of their culinary past with her personal evolution blooming right under her fingertips. But just as she began to relax into the acceptance, her mother's voice cut through the warmth. Evelyn, are you saying you want to completely change our family recipes? To let go of everything we've done together? There it was, the confrontation looming, a tether to the past that could sway her back or set her free. Feeling that familiar weight pressing down, Evelyn recognized the pivotal moment laid bare before her. Did she want to commit to this new identity, her identity? The space between her turmoil and the family she loved seemed to collapse as the question hung thick in the air. And in that profound stillness, possibilities swirled. What would Evelyn choose? To navigate a path back to comfort, or take the leap toward an uncertain future filled with her vision? The answer loomed urgent and confrontational as the gaze of her family rested heavily on her, waiting. Evelyn's heart raced, each beat echoing with the weight of her mother's words. The project she had embarked upon, the journey toward redefining her relationship with food, suddenly seemed dwarfed by the magnitude of familial expectation. Her mother's question felt like a cup of cold water, splashed across the warmth of her newfound confidence. The memories of her childhood, sticky hands blending dough and countless dinners spent in both laughter and silence flooded her mind. But she realized it was precisely this intersection of past and present that demanded her courage. It's not about letting go, she finally said, grappling with the truth that both tethered her and propelled her forward. It's about evolving. I love our traditions, but they don't have to be fixed. We can adapt. Silence hung in the air momentarily, punctuated by the scraping of silverware against plates. The hesitant acceptance that had started to unfurl grew heavy with tension. Would she be seen as a champion of change or a misguided disruptor? The stakes were set, and Evelyn could almost feel the familial bonds that had once felt indestructible, now stretching as they tested her resolve. Adaptation? So, you're saying we should just change everything? Uncle Tom asked, his skepticism laced with a teasing edge. What next? Quinoa on Thanksgiving? Laughter erupted around the table, a mixture of ease and a veiled challenge that echoed in Evelyn's mind. Why not? What if we made room for something new without losing the essence of what we have? Evelyn could hear the strength in her own voice. An undercurrent of defiance mingled with hope. She had long ago known what trappings awaited her in the familiar patterns of tradition, but stepping into the unknown meant risking everything, including the very relationships that had defined her. Internally, seeds of determination began to grow. What if her culinary choices reflected more than personal growth? They could be a call for unity, expressing to her family that flexibility could coexist with heritage. Could she be the catalyst that nudged her family toward a common ground? Evelyn, you can't change a thing without understanding where it came from, her mother replied, clearly frustrated. This is our history. It felt as if her mother's voice crackled like static, the power of love and loyalty intertwining with the apprehension of losing something sacred. Was Evelyn really eager to lose the warmth of shared meals steeped in nostalgia? Maybe it isn't about losing what we've built, but building something new around it. Can you see the value in that? Her mind reeled as the tension in her chest twisted with doubt. Was it too much to ask them to consider the possibility that new traditions could emerge without erasing old ones? With every glance exchanged among her family, she weighed risks and rewards, the delicate balance of innovation and reverence. I want to create meals where everyone can still feel connected. Can't we carry forward our history while also making room for healthier options? The words rushed out, driven by urgency, echoing her desire to forge a path where she could thrive. What happened next felt like a moment frozen in time. Cousin Sarah lifted a forkful of Evelyn's creation, her first bite swallowed in contemplation. I think I can taste both, she mumbled, her face lighting up unpredictably. This was a signal, a breakthrough perhaps. Yet, storms were brewing beneath the surface, the same storm that had initially brewed in Evelyn's own heart. There could be no resolution without confrontation, and she now felt the full weight of her family's legacy pressing down upon her. Each decision she made would illuminate or shadow her very identity. As everyone continued to sample her dishes, she felt emboldened by the subtle shift. Driven by her emotions, she decided to push further. I'm not asking you to abandon tradition, but to embrace possibility, she proposed, her voice unwavering yet vulnerable. Would they understand this was not a simple rebellion, but a heartfelt request to join her on this journey of transformation? The challenge now lay before her, rallying her family to understand, to accept, and to grow. But uncertainty loomed. Would they step into this new chapter alongside her, or would fear of change anchor them in the past? Evelyn braced herself, heart pounding, contemplating the weight of what lay ahead. The next moment felt pivotal. Her family's reactions could either stifle or nurture her budding vision. Would they join her in this new culinary adventure, or was this the beginning of a deeper schism in their collective identity? As she searched their faces for understanding, she realized she would have to dig deeper than mere food aspirations. She would need to confront not just their resistance, but her own fears as well. Would she be able to lead her family towards a new way of thinking before and beyond the dinner table? The dawning realization came with clarity. This was her moment to ignite change, to spark a legacy all her own. Would she have the courage to pursue it, knowing that the answer could change everything about the way they loved and lived? The uncertainty weighed heavily in the air, like a drawer pulled open with too many hidden possibilities. Evelyn's breath hitched as she scanned her family's faces, a multiplicity of expressions causing her heart to flutter between hope and anxiety. Each reaction felt monumental, an echo of her own fears reflected back at her. The laughter that followed her words hung in the air, a sharp contrast to the earnestness of her plea. She darted a glance at her mother's furrowed brow, uncertainty cloaked in a veil of affection. New traditions, huh? Her cousin Mark chimed in, his voice light but probing. You think we're ready for all that? Isn't what we have already perfect? The warmth of the past wrapped around the room in an embrace that felt heavier than she anticipated. Could it be that they would cling to nostalgia at the expense of progress? Evelyn swallowed hard, the familiar pang of doubt rolling through her. The challenge now felt like a mountain she had to climb, even if the summit promised enlightenment. I'm not trying to erase the past. I'm trying to celebrate it in new ways, she countered, conviction rising within her like steam from a simmering pot. Food should bring us together, and I believe it can evolve too. As she stirred her dish, a blend of traditional flavors and innovative techniques, the mixture of history and health coursed through her fingers. It felt right in that moment, like she was blending the past into something that could nourish their collective future. Still, scrutiny surrounded her like a storm cloud, and she quietly wished for an ally in this culinary revolution. Food is tied to who we are. Change just feels risky, her mother said softly, voice barely above a whisper, yet holding the weight of an anchor. The hesitance was palpable, each syllable radiating concern and resistance. Driven by a surge of resolve, Evelyn tried to peel back the layers of her relative's hesitations. What if we experimented together? She watched a twinkle of intrigue flicker in Cousin Sarah's eyes. We could each bring a dish to the next dinner, a blend of old and new. Imagine how our meals could spark conversations. A moment passed, the sounds of forks clinking lessened, and she sensed the wheels turning in their minds. Yet, doubt still lingered among them like the smell of a burnt sauce. Courageous or reckless, this idea could either unite them or fracture the very core of what she held dear. Finding her footing, Evelyn bit her lip and implored, having lighter options doesn't diminish what we've created together. It can add complexity to our experiences. Can't we champion both? Fighting against her fear was exhausting, yet invigorating. Each word she spoke seemed to chip away at the walls of apprehension, brick by brick, yet she still felt the tension hardened in the air. Would her passion be the spark or the grenade? As if sensing her inner conflict, Uncle Tom sighed, glancing down at his plate. Change is hard, Evie. We all love your enthusiasm, but will we be losing the flavor of our heritage in trying to keep up with trends? The question pierced her heart. She recognized that the challenge wasn't solely about food. It was about finding the delicate balance between preserving deep-rooted traditions and forging new paths. Was her desire for change rooted in her own insecurities? Would this journey foster deeper connections or introduce rifts she could hardly fathom? Evelyn inhaled deeply, focusing on the flavors of her dish and the warmth of family around her, ready to expand her heart and mind. Maybe it wasn't enough just to present a new dish, but to engage them emotionally in the process, to make it relatable in a way that bridged their generational gap. This isn't just dinner anymore, she thought fiercely. This is about creating an ecosystem of love and nourishment. As glimmers of resilience sparked in her spirit, a daring idea ignited in her mind. Perhaps she could organize lessons, a way to introduce her family to this new way of cooking, a path where everyone could be involved. The tension in her chest lessened slightly, as if lighting a candle amidst darkness. Let us host cooking nights. We can teach each other, grow in this, and discover what we can create as a family. Let us start with that, she proposed, her voice radiating newfound excitement even amid uncertainty. The hesitation from her family turned to an expectant silence, uncertainty still dancing in their eyes, but now tinged with a hint of intrigue. That spark of possibility flickered alive, but would it be enough to keep her from feeling overwhelmingly alone? Yet as they slowly began to discuss the prospect, she could hear an echo in her own thoughts. Would their willingness to experiment create a stronger bond, or amplify the rifts lurking beneath their shared history? The uncharted territory ahead shimmered before her, the path laden with potential, each step towards growth seeking to define family anew. With simmering resolve, Evelyn prepared herself for the challenges of alliance and dissent that lay ahead. Because more than just culinary changes, she realized, this was about unearthing the spirit of adaptability within her family dynamic. And so, the next chapter awaited, filled with choices and revelations. Would she be able to broaden their horizons, or would the familiar walls of tradition ultimately close in on her dreams? Evelyn's heart raced in the silence that followed her proposal. She watched her family's expressions shift as they mulled over her idea, the air thick with uncertainty. Yet within her a seedling of hope took root. She craved a space where innovation could intertwine with tradition, a sanctuary where both could thrive. Yet doubt crept in. Could she really motivate her family to step beyond their comfort zones? Determination pressed against her ribs, igniting an internal dialogue as she began to plot her path forward. How could she cultivate an atmosphere of openness? Navigating her family's emotional landscapes would require a delicacy she wasn't sure she possessed. Reaching for her phone, she typed out a message to her friend Lena, a trained chef and culinary teacher. Lena was enthusiastic about cooking with fresh, healthy ingredients and might lend her credibility in making her family feel at ease with change. Hey, do you think you could help me host a cooking night? I want to blend old family recipes with some healthier alternatives. She hit send, anticipation swirling in her chest alongside the old fears of rejection. Learning from her mistakes in adulthood, Evelyn continually examined her previous failures and triumphs. Would this belong more to the former, or could it signal a turning point? As she waited for Lena's response, she paced the kitchen, reminding herself of her vision, the culinary bridge that could connect their histories while nurturing their spirits. Lena replied almost immediately. Absolutely. I love that idea. Let us schedule a time to chat this week about what you envision. The sense of relief that washed over her was intoxicating. Collaborating with someone so knowledgeable felt invigorating. With renewed vigor, Evelyn pictured the layout of the kitchen, the vibrant colors of fresh produce, smiles and chatter intermingling like spices in the air. Yet, as quickly as that image took form, it was punctured by the thought of how her family might react if they were resistant. She could sense them already, a chorus of histrionics flaring as they experienced discomfort in stepping into the unfamiliarity surrounding her ideas. Part of her felt that the potential for failure loomed larger than it should, like a shadow grappling for dominance over the light. She shook her head, trying to dispel the foreboding thoughts. Clarity emerged from the darkness when she resolved to architect the process. If I can engage them on an emotional level, she reasoned, then maybe they'll see the benefits of trying new things. Evelyn scribbled notes in her journal, outlining possible themes for upcoming cooking nights. Fusion of flavors, she wrote down, envisioning each dish bearing a memory of family while also paving the way for innovation. A candle symbolizing hope to light their culinary journey, a way to transform interactions into deeper connections, flavor by flavor. But what would happen when the actual cooking began? The thought of resistance was daunting. It meant confronting opinions held rigidly by family members, understanding the psychological walls built around traditions. When had comfort become synonymous with complacency? Suddenly, she realized she had only been fighting to change their menu. She was challenging a mindset that had no room for uncertainty. She started to draft a plan that incorporated storytelling, inviting each family member to share memories tied to their dishes. Maybe as they talked, they'd rekindle their willingness to explore while bonding over shared laughs. Days later, having mapped out her intentions and with Lena's support confirmed, Evelyn sat at the kitchen table, emotional turbulence ebbing away as excitement began to augment her resolve. She was embracing change not just for herself, but to deepen familial ties. Yet, beneath the excitement, doubt lingered. What if the changes were not received? What if her family came to resent her ambition? Would she stand alone amidst familiar faces? This emotional dichotomy rattled within her, but beneath it all, she felt momentum. She needed to breathe life into her vision, not only for her culinary objectives, but for her own evolution, which, she recognized, would require navigating the murky waters of family dynamics. Evelyn remained resolute, knitting her dreams together with strands of vulnerability and confidence. But her heart refused to quiet, the questions still gnawing. Would her cravings for innovation drown in the tide of hesitation? As the day of the first cooking night approached, the tension within her swelled. What awaited her was an uncharted territory of potential friendships and confrontations, of heritage and evolution intermingled. The door loomed ahead, and she could feel the weight of anticipation pressing down on her. Would she prove capable of being the catalyst for change her family needed? Or would she face the music of discontent in a room that had long cherished comfort? Evelyn paced her living room, feeling the familiar tension of anticipatory anxiety gripping her chest yet again. The first cooking night loomed closer, each hour passing with the rhythmic thump of her fluttering heart. As she scrutinized the invitation on her phone, Glances at her reflection in the window revealed a face painted with both resolve and apprehension. Would her family connect with the idea, or would they see only a challenge to the status quo? Breathing deeply, she reminded herself of the intentions driving her initiative. She wanted to expose her family to different flavors and textures, as well as different perspectives on nourishment. This wasn't merely culinary experimentation. It was a bid to instill a sense of unity and adaptability in their habits. Yet, each thought of resistance sent waves of doubt crashing over her fragile optimism. Stepping into the kitchen, she scanned the space that would soon be a hub of activity. Evelyn imagined the bright spices decorating the countertops and the fresh vegetables waiting to be chopped, a stark contrast to the dim associations of unchanging meals. She envisioned Lena's skilled hands leading them through techniques as laughter intertwined with the clinks of utensils. However, she needed to prepare for the murmurs of dissent that might echo amidst the chatter. She opened her journal and began jotting down moments of connection she had experienced throughout her life. One entry caught her eye, a memory of her grandmother's warm kitchen, filled with the aroma of slow-cooked stew on winter evenings. The family gathered close. Maybe I can share this, she thought, letting the nostalgia weave through her current fears. Vulnerability, she realized, was needed to counter the potential resistance. By sharing her own fears and feelings, she could create a pathway for others to do the same. The night arrived, and the ambience shifted to palpable excitement as her family began to gather. Each face reflected a spectrum of emotions, curiosity mingled with skepticism, especially from her Uncle Walter, who had always valued the simplicity of tradition. "What's this about health? Food should be comfort, not a project," he quipped, sparking a tension that flared momentarily in Evelyn's chest. Clenching her hands, she reminded herself that each word spoken was an opportunity to pivot the conversation toward understanding. "Thank you all for being here," she began, trying to maintain a steady voice. "Tonight, we're not just cooking, we're sharing stories that tie us to our past, while also exploring something new. I believe we can honor what we've always loved, but also embrace ways to nourish ourselves better." She glanced at Lena, who nodded encouragingly from the side, her confidence infusing Evelyn's hesitant words with power. Then came the inevitable question that knocked at her mental barriers. "Evelyn," interrupted her sister Allison, "why change something that's worked for us so far? What if we end up hating it?" The air shifted. It was a challenge, a breach to her carefully curated plan. The weight of the question anchored her momentarily, but she fought against the current of panic. "Allison, I think that's a fair concern," she acknowledged, trying to project calmness against a backdrop of swirling anxiety. "But what if we discover something extraordinary together? Think of it as an adventure." The room fell silent as her family absorbed the invitation in her voice. It was a chance to explore not just new ingredients, but new layers of their relationship. Theme by theme, dish by dish, they could unveil aspects of themselves that had remained hidden within the familiar. As the first dish sizzled on the stove, the fragrant blend of spices wafted through the air, and her uncle's earlier doubts began to recede. Even he seemed intrigued, leaning in as Evelyn popped the question, "What does this dish remind you of from our childhood?" The response was hesitant at first, a whisper of a story surfacing, followed by others chiming in, recounting memories associated with their beloved family. Recipes. The laughter and stories flowed easily, generating warmth like the heat rising from the pots. Yet, even amidst this intimacy, the specter of discord lingered. What if there were recipes they wouldn't accept, or stories they didn't wish to reveal? Evelyn felt the flicker of hope intensify, entwined with fear. She had created a space, but how long could it sustain the weight of potential backlash? Teetering between exhilaration and dread, she sensed the uprising of new voices, the anticipated conversations about change intertwined with a deep-rooted love for the past. As the first night unfolded, Evelyn faced not just a culinary experimentation, but an emotional expedition through her family's history, each conflict revealing layers of dissent, vulnerability, and connection. The question echoed in her mind, a whisper demanding resolution. Would the stories shared create a bond strong enough to withstand any future conflict? Or would this evening merely serve as a prelude to deeper familial divisions? The path ahead seemed to branch infinitely, with decisions that could lead to unprecedented connections or irrevocable ruptures. With a cooking night behind her but uncertainty ahead, Evelyn steeled herself for what awaited on the horizon. What would tomorrow bring as they explored the depths of tradition against the tides of change? Evelyn woke the next morning to a quiet house, the remnants of last night still lingering in her mind like echoes. The laughter of her family resonated in her heart, but was tempered by images of the uncertainty that had danced around the edges of their conversations. Despite the warmth generated by shared memories, the underlying current of fear felt palpable, almost like an uninvited guest shadowing the cheerful aftermath of her culinary adventure. In the kitchen, the sunlight streaming through the window painted her surroundings in an optimistic hue. She half-smiled at the vibrant remnants of the previous night, the spice jars still lined up, measuring spoons stacked casually on the countertop. This was a sign of deliberate change, a testament to her efforts. Yet, as she stared out at the glowing new day, she couldn't shake a lingering thought. How fragile was this unity she sought to cultivate? Determined to engage further, she grabbed her journal and flipped to the blank pages waiting to be filled. This time, she pondered what her own past could reveal about the complexity of change. She recalled her moments of hesitation, decisions between what felt comfortable and what dared to challenge her. These reflections weren't just critical for her own growth, but also served as a foundation for her family's evolving narrative. Change is scary, she scribbled. But what if, pausing at the term, she let herself lean back into the thoughts swirling in her mind? What if change was the catalyst her family needed to achieve deeper connections? She wrote down the question again, outlining her fears around sharing more personal stories, her vulnerabilities, finding strength in the act of revealing herself to them. Evelyn's phone vibrated with a message from Lena. Ready for round 2? I have some fun ideas for tonight. A spark ignited in her, pulling her enthusiasm back into focus. This wasn't just about innovation in food. It was shaping a collective adventure infused with trust and openness. As she began testing new recipes, her mind jumped to potential family reactions. What if the attempt to introduce new cuisine felt too radical? She paused, considering how she could present these flavors not just as food, but as a tapestry woven out of their lives. Each dish could become a story, a memory expressed in ingredients waiting to be combined. A vessel for sharing not just of flavors, but of emotions and experiences. Later, Evelyn strolled through the market, awakening her senses with the vibrant colors of fresh produce and fragrant herbs. She imagined how each ingredient could carry the weight of a memory, connecting their pasts to their potential futures. The in-season vegetables became metaphors, converging flavors mirroring converging lives. How could she use this bounty to educate her family without them feeling provoked? A sudden thought struck her. What if she posed questions about the ingredients themselves? She could infuse each cooking night with challenges that encourage storytelling rather than defensiveness. What reminds you of this ingredient? Could lead to shared experiences rather than assertions about culinary preferences. Once home, she began to sketch a loose outline for the next gathering, listing ingredient themes that could provoke discussion, perhaps spices that reminded them of childhood family meals, or vegetables often used in their favorite holiday dishes. Each was a bridge to her family's history, and each response could fortify resilience against dissent. Her focus sharpened as she considered how to introduce the new dishes while acknowledging their treasured recipes. Introducing an element of choice, perhaps a traditional versus contemporary dish pairing each night, could combat any rigid resistance, making the experience interactive. Yet, the shadow of doubt loomed again. Despite drafting her plans, she questioned if she had the courage required to confront the discomfort that might arise. Would she be strong enough to handle any backlash, to stand her ground when questions became accusations? Or would her unorthodox methods be met with confrontation instead of understanding? As she wrestled with these thoughts, a new layers of determination ignited within her. She no longer just craved connection. She needed to lead with unwavering conviction, her journey transforming from one of culinary exploration to a personal mission for familial harmony. That evening, she took a deep breath, observing her family as they gathered once more, the threshold of possibility lying before her. The air buzzed with anticipation, and the question lingered at the forefront of her mind: what stories would unfold this time? Would they embrace the adventure together, or would she have to navigate through potential conflicts? She realized that she wasn't just cooking. She was embarking on a journey to reshape her family dynamics, and she would need to harness every ounce of courage to stay true to her vision. Her heart raced with the knowledge that tonight's outcome would reveal just how deep the roots of change could go. As she plated the first dish of the evening, her inner voice urged her onward. Would her carefully orchestrated plan hold, or would it fall apart under the scrutiny of those she loved most? The moment to confront those uncertainties was arriving. This was just the beginning. The room buzzed with a palpable energy as the family settled around the dining table, their faces mixing excitement with uncertainty. Evelyn felt the weight of their expectations pressing against her. What had begun as a simple culinary experiment had transformed into something much grander, a test of resilience and trust amidst the stirrings of change. Each family member's gaze was a different equation, full of equations she needed to solve. "All right, everyone," she said, lifting her voice to cut through the anticipatory silence. "Tonight, I present to you not just a meal, but a journey through our memories." She hesitated, the words feeling heavy with expectation, but the resolve in her heart pressed her to forge ahead. As the first dish was unveiled, a modern twist on the family's storied lasagna, with unexpected layers of roasted vegetables and exotic spices, she observed the responses unfolding. Her sister Clara's brow furrowed, while her brother Joe leaned in, intrigued. There it was, the heart of Evelyn's fear. How would they navigate through potential discontent? "What's in it?" Joe asked, a hint of caution sparking curiosity. "Ingredients that speak to who we are," Evelyn replied, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "Each of you has a story with these flavors. I want to hear them." Silence fell briefly before Clara broke it. "You know I like traditional." This she gestured at the dish with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. How can you change something that doesn't need changing? It was the confrontation she dreaded. Evelyn's heartbeat quickened as doubt wormed its way back into her mind. Yet she summoned the courage woven through her days of reflection. "Clara, what does our traditional lasagna mean to you?" She countered, a mix of courage and emotion strengthening her stance. "What memories does it conjure?" The table paused, caught in the net of nostalgia. Clara's frown softened, and Evelyn could see the wheels turning. "It reminds me of Grandma's Sunday dinners," Clara finally admitted, her voice taut with emotion. "That was family time. But, you know, it doesn't mean we can't evolve." Evelyn nodded, a flicker of triumph igniting within her. "Exactly. Change doesn't erase our memories, it can enhance them. This dish can be our connection, a new memory formed in tandem with the old." The conversation began to blossom, slowly at first, but gaining momentum as Evelyn introduced each dish, each a dialogue starter. The anthropological story behind saffron now became a tale of their travels abroad, while spicy chickpeas evoked laughter over childhood mishaps at family picnics. The table gradually shifted from skepticism to curiosity, that initial fear transforming into a tapestry of shared stories. Yet even as the warmth built, a nagging voice in the back of Evelyn's mind whispered caution. Was it really that simple? What if, beneath the surface of their valued conversations, deeper rifts existed? Could a simple meal truly heal the fractures within? As the night deepened, she sensed their gaze shifting towards her not just as the cook, but as the architect of this new familial dynamic. She realized that her pioneering spirit was being tested, and that uncovering hidden truths was as critical as the conversation she prompted. After a round of laughter, with celebratory moods rising, her sister picked up the last bite of her innovative lasagna and looked straight into Evelyn's eyes, a hint of uncertainty returning. "You know, maybe this wasn't such a bad idea after all," Clara said, each word filling the air with a hesitant hope. But just as relief washed over Evelyn, a sudden knock echoed from the front door, slicing through the moment. Tension returned, charged and electric. Could this be the interruption that could derail all she had orchestrated? She took a deep breath, sensing that the real confrontation was just beginning. As she excused herself to see who was there, she felt a shift within, a determination tightening in her chest. The night had revealed new connections, but now, depending on who stood on the other side of that door, Her family's fragile unity could either solidify or crack. What awaited her on the other side? Would it open new avenues for dialogue or throw them into disarray? The evening was taking a turn she hadn't anticipated, one that would test the very fabric of the connections she had only begun to weave. Evelyn hesitated at the door, heart racing with anticipation. As she turned the knob, she was met by the bright eyes and warm embrace of her long-lost cousin, Megan, who had just arrived from out of town. A wave of relief washed over her. Megan was a beacon of familiarity, someone who could add warmth and laughter to this pivotal evening. "Cousin, I can't believe you're here," Evelyn exclaimed as she pulled Megan inside. The moment felt transformative, easing the tension in the air that had threatened to consume her courage. "You just walked into the revolution," she added with a smile, trying to mask her earlier uncertainties. Megan laughed, her presence instantly electrifying the room. "I heard there was food involved, and I couldn't resist." The family quickly shifted their focus from their doubts about Evelyn's culinary endeavors to welcoming Megan. Evoking stories from their childhood, a warmth began to envelop the room, slowly pushing back against the resistance that had lingered throughout the evening. As they settled in, Evelyn decided it was time to embrace the vulnerabilities surrounding her journey. She shared the challenges she had faced in changing the family's traditional recipes while holding on to the essence of what those dishes meant to them. "It's not just about cooking," she shared earnestly. "It's about who we are as a family. We can cherish our memories while embracing new adventures together." Megan's eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "That's incredible, Ev," she praised. "You're bridging the gap between the past and present. I love that." The air shifted, and the space felt symbiotic, filled with encouragement rather than resistance. One by one, Evelyn's relatives began participating more actively, echoing the affirmations that Megan shared. They moved away from skepticism and towards appreciation. Clara chimed in, "I didn't think I could like zucchini lasagna, but Evelyn's proof of concept is here. It's delicious." As the conversation spiraled into laughter, Evelyn realized she had not just changed the menu. She had catalyzed a profound change within the family fabric itself. They were actively participating in the evolution of their shared identity, and each story floated through the air, knitting them closer. Seeing her family come together like this was the validation she craved. As the kitchen filled with laughter and warmth, she understood the foods had facilitated more than a meal. They had opened up a space for dialogue, vulnerability, and acceptance. Each bite they took was accompanied by tales, every dish sparking laughter. And those simple moments began knitting together a deeper connection among them. As the evening culminated in shared stories and culinary triumphs, Evelyn felt a surge of satisfaction swelling in her heart. It was not merely about health, change, or tradition anymore. It transformed into a celebration of her family's resilience. This was the richness of their history adapting comfortably into their present. Reflecting on how far she had come in her journey, Evelyn recognized the solid confidence she now carried with her. She had dared to confront fears, navigated uncertainties, and emerged more aware of her family's capabilities for love and evolution. She had proven not just to them, but to herself, that change does not have to equate to loss. It can be a channel for growth instead. By the night's end, her family sat together, plates emptied of her innovative dishes but hearts full of connection. They were more than just changes around a meal. They had rekindled their bonds, and perhaps even uncovered the threads of love that had woven them together through generations. As she cleaned the kitchen together with Megan, Evelyn felt at peace, an empowering fulfillment washing over her. Growth, she realized, does not merely emerge from transformation. It arises through the numerous dialogues we open with those we love. She was not just a caretaker of her family's past. She was a pioneer of their future. In that moment, she understood the potent connection between nourishment and love. Transcends every generation. Her culinary journey became a testament to her commitment not just to her health, but to the health of her family, one that now brimmed with potential and hope for the future. To all our viewers, if you felt the spark of transformation alongside Evelyn, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for stories that not only enlighten but inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more people discover these powerful narratives. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how love and courage can redefine our paths. Comment your thoughts and reactions because your voice makes a difference. Be part of this journey.